Hey, Ahmed, I'm a big fan of the pod, which, by the way, we got a lot of those.
Thanks, that's
and
good.
We say if you say that at the top of your message, you get on the show.
Yes.
We're getting a lot of those now, so people have caught on. So we might need to
Big fan of the show. You guys suck, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Chris Sims Unbuttoned, Ahmed Fareed's here. Send us nice, kind comments, and we will read them on the podcast. That's right. That's a threat, or I don't know what that is.
It's a threat. We will read your comment if you're nice to us.
If you're nice to us, that is
it.
a threat. What's up, everybody? We got a good one today. Got some news and notes to hit on around the NFL, definitely, but it's going to be dominated, really, this podcast by more draft talk. We got some Ask Me Anythings towards the end of the pod. I think we're going to hit on rankings first right off the bat, and that will be linebackers today. LBs, baby. Special, human being to play NFL and NFL linebacker. There's no doubt about that. Pretty good class. Not going to say great, okay? But I think there's some top-end guys that could really be great. The rest of it, solid, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think it's super deep or special.
So we'll get through all the linebacker rankings. We'll take a look at how you did last year. Like you mentioned, we'll get through the Ask Me Anything, because this has become every podcast thing now.
Yeah.
It's just like normally we talk about the quarterbacks and it's like, all right, we move on. But this group of quarterbacks is so interesting. And I find myself on Twitter defending your view on Mac Jones every day now. I've become obsessed.
Yeah.
I have become obsessed. And there are some people that say, Ahmed, you should be more of like adversary on the podcast, like battle Chris. And I go, you know what? No, I am a Chris Sims stan at this point forward. Whatever you say, I will defend it to the death. And that's just the way it's going to be.
Thank you.
It's not going to be like maybe every once in a while if you give credit to the Bears or something,
You might push back?
Exactly, I would push back.
But we're a team is what you're telling me.
We're a team.
Simpatico.
And so I have become obsessed on Twitter, talking to 49er fans, defending... Yes. Oh, and chocolate-covered pretzels. Is that what you don't like those? Or
I tried. Florio bought me some because I never had it before. I tried it. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's nothing like that special.
That's an insane take, but I will defend you for it. I will still defend you for that.
So you love them too.
I do. They're very good. Yeah, they're really good.
You got a haircut.
I did.
Yeah. Look at you.
I thought it got a little low. It got a little. Well, I got the Kentucky Derby coming up here in 3 weeks, and so I like to get kind of that haircut now.
A 3-week advance growing period?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's too long. Sorry. I could back you up with a lot of things. That's one I got to go against you on.
See, it puts me in a weird spot, though, because I never want to get the haircut right before the show, because then it looks like Johnny Poindexter.
Johnny Poindexter? Who's that? Who's Johnny Poindexter?
That's me right after a haircut.
Johnny Square guy
Exactly.
haircut? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, I like that. I like that. Look at you going all Johnny on me over there.
All right, don't do that because I won't defend you anymore. Stop. Okay, so let's get into the linebacker rankings. Also, we will talk about your interviews with Kellen Mond and De'Ami Brown, which I watched. Really good. And I got some thoughts on those.
Thanks a lot.
So let's get right into it. Our prospect rundown, presented by Applebee's, the Chris Sims 2021 Draft Linebacker Rankings. And this question comes from Eberflus1, regular contributor to the show.
My man here.
Do you prefer linebackers who are better in coverage or better in tackling? So basically, what are you looking for when you scout these linebackers?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, ideally, of course, you want both, all right? I mean, that's for sure.
Yes and yes.
It's a tough blend there. It is a tough blend as far as what you're looking for. But, as a whole, I think, again, if you're going to make me choose either one, right? And we're in I'm going to probably pick the guy that's a little bit better in coverage or in space. Okay. And then just go, hey, wait, I think we can work on the tackling stuff as compared to maybe the vice versa to what Eberflus1 is asking is where it's like, oh, yeah, guy's a great tackler. Hey, yeah, I think maybe we can work, on coverage and things like that. But that's a tough thing to correct at times. Looseness in the hips, the ability to turn. Is he just gifted enough of an athlete to put his foot in the ground and kind of accelerate and break on the ball and do those things? So, I guess if you're going to ask me and break that down to that, I'm going to pick more of the spatial stuff to be the tiebreaker as compared to the tackling and thumping aspect.
So in your top 5 that we're about to see, are they players who can do both, or do you see some that are that are more one or the other?
There's some that are better at one than the other, but yeah, I'm looking for both. I am. And not even that you have to be like the best tackler in the world either. Again, this is almost goes back to a little bit of like my safety conversation. You know, the one thing with linebacker, you know, I don't, that's a position of no hesitation. There can't be hesitation in your game. You can't think and be like, oh, do I want to come downhill and take that fullback on? Oh, there's a guard coming. You know, how should I play this? That's got to be these are like the toughest of the toughest, the strongest of the strongest when you're talking about middle linebackers. It's a really, really special blend of size, explosiveness, raw strength to take on humans that are way bigger than you, and then also like rare speed to chase down people who are much smaller than you, but yet you're going to be expected to be, we need you to run with them. You know, that's where it's a rare animal. I mean, it really is that way. So I guess what we're going to see here mostly, though, is a blend of that. But we have some different things in different areas with certain guys here.
It's funny, when I was growing up, it was like linebacker and middle linebacker was the guy on the defense, right? He's calling the defense. He's a lot of times the most
He's got big shoulder pads on with a neck roll like Chris Spielman on the Lions.
But then in the exactly, Chris Spielman's a perfect example. But then the last few years, you see the Patriots and Bill Belichick go heavy in the secondary. You this past year have said those big dudes up front that can clog everything up. And those guys have become very important in the NFL. And so this one comes from Michael Heim. With how good some defenses like the Rams have become, has the importance of the linebacker position declined?
Ooh. It depends. It depends on certain defenses, right? You know, the Rams, I will say this, they had enough talent in other areas and creativity to kind of make up for their lack of production at that linebacker position. But I would say no to that answer. You know, and again, it's a really good question, because there are some schemes where it's just not as dependent on maybe the middle linebacker as far as make or break their defense. But I could get into other defenses. Again, I think if we talk about the 49ers and what they were, in the Super Bowl run a few years ago. Oh, wait, you got two freak linebackers, huh? Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, fast as they get in football. That's really important to that scheme.
Sure.
It's why you see Deion Jones in Atlanta, that scheme. The Seattle scheme, that linebacker is really important because it's more than a linebacker. They're asked to do things in coverage department that a lot of teams ask their safeties to do and things like that. So I would say for that team, that scheme, no, it's every bit as important. I'll even throw in another one, like New England, with what they've done. They do a different approach and a little bit by committee. They try to find versatile guys to where it's like, wait, is it 3D linemen or 3 linebackers? Is it 3D linemen and 3 linebackers? Oh, so it's going to be a 3 down front. Oh, wait, one of those linebackers can play defense end. It's a 4 down front. So they find the versatility guy that can match up and do a lot of different things. Like I always go to Dante Hightower.
Yeah.
Middle linebacker, can smash guards and take on centers like a big, strong guy, but then can cover backs pretty good in the back end as far as coverage wise. And then they can put him at defensive end and he can add a little pass rush and set the edge and do all that stuff. So I guess long story short, sorry for the long answer, is no, I still think it's a very valuable position in the NFL. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
Right.
There's another team we're going to talk about. But you can find ways to mask it if you have deficiency there.
One of the coolest things about football is that there are multiple ways to win, multiple ways to do it, and you see it throughout the NFL and especially throughout college.
Well, you take top defenses in football, right? Just to expand on this, Washington.
Yeah.
One of the best. Well, linebackers, can you name one of them? Probably not, right? I don't even mean to be a jerk.
They didn't need them. They didn't even use them.
Exactly. Well, they had a front four that's special, and they had some safeties that can do linebacker stuff. So it was like, okay, you're not a necessity. But then you get in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the team that won the Super Bowl, you go, well, I don't know if they win the Super Bowl if they don't have 2 great linebackers that can cover and do that type of stuff. So I think speed of the defense, when people usually talk about, whoa, this defense is really fast, it usually means they have really fast linebackers.
Yeah.
That's usually, because the secondary, we know everybody's fast there. When you get the linebackers that are fast with it, then you start to go, holy shit, this team seems like there's extra people out here on the football field right now.
Yes. All right, so before we get into our rankings, we got to look back. Always, we got to go to school, see how we did, assess it. So we go back to your 2020 NFL linebacker draft rankings here. You had Isaiah Simmons, number 1, who had a weird year.
Yes.
He had a lot of hype coming out, hybrid player.
Right.
Only played, I think, 30-something% of the snaps. So that was unfortunate for Simmons. I want to get your take on him. Patrick Queen, on the other hand, and Kenneth Murray played a ton. Patrick Queen started every game for Baltimore. Kenneth Murray played a ton, too. Zach Bond did not play that much. He's
not
your number
much.
4.
Right.
And Josh Uche had a lot of injuries.
And
didn't
only
play
played towards much to the end of the year
for the Patriots.
Yeah.
So start with Simmons. What happened with Simmons?
Well, Simmons, again, this was the problem with him coming out, was a little bit of just like, where's he comfortable? Where are we going to find the role for him to play? And I think that took a little bit for the Cardinals to figure it out. He did come on, though, towards the end of the year. And they got him in the middle of the defense, middle linebacker, go chase the ball, go do that. And I thought I saw growth in him as the year went on. Yeah, you're right. Early in the year, they were very picky about situations when he played and did things like that. But that was the issue with the Simmons as far as the evaluation.
Yeah.
It's raw, and you don't get to see him at one position to go, oh, wait, he's really great at that. You kept going, oh, he's pretty good at safety. Oh, he's pretty good at outside linebacker. Oh, he's pretty good at middle linebacker. He had he's playing nickel here. Oh, he can cover slot receivers. So I think this is a guy that just has to be, hey, this is your position. We got to keep coaching you at your position, and he'll grow into the player we expect him to be. I don't see any problems with him, especially physicality-wise.
You happy with those rankings? Because Patrick Queen's funny because he played a ton. PFF
but was all over the place.
PFF had him lowest rated rookie linebacker.
I was going to say, it was not an impressive year. He kind of was like a chicken with his head cut off at times in that defense. There was a lot. I think it was, again, he's a raw, I came from LSU, I'm just going to run and go get the ball, right? And in college football, sometimes that's just really all it gets to. Go get the ball. Okay, yep, coach, I'll go get him. Right, I'm great. I'm a great athlete. In college football, you get away with it. The NFL is different. There's more moving parts. There's more deception. There's more offensive schemes to go with it. Yeah, there was like games where, I'm not even going to joke, like the New England Patriots. Remember they upset the Ravens on that Sunday Night Football game on NBC?
Yeah.
They went after Patrick Queen. They basically went, I don't know if he'll know how to fit this hole the right way. If we pull the guard and add a fullback in there, is he going to figure out, exactly which gap is his? I think it was a learning experience for him. And the same goes for the third guy. Kenneth Murray is really awesome specimen. But I think, again, coming from the Big 12 where it's 7-on-7 every play, it was a little bit like, wait, I got to not worry about a screen pass and a pass every play. There's going to be blocking on me, and the guards are going to pull, and they're going to do all these different things in the run game. I think it was a little adjustment for him there, too.
Yeah, Patrick Queen specifically had 22 missed tackles that tied Zach Cunningham for most in the NFL last year for Pro Football Focus. Still, that's rookie year. A lot of experience for those guys. Some guys later in the draft. Who was it?
Not all missed tackles are created equal.
Sure,
either. That's where I would go. Like his missed tackles to me jump out in my mind, and don't stop your thought here after this.
Yeah.
But like as compared to Cunningham, who played in this shit defense, and he's going above and beyond, and like, oh wait, this guy didn't get this guy.
Okay.
Let me dive in there and try to make the tackle. Oh, I missed it. Well, you missed a tackle, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, you missed a tackle, but like he was putting himself out there in a no-win situation to maybe make the tackle.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Context always matters.
Context matters.
Pro Football Focus had
Michael
Walker from Fresno State, played for the Falcons as their top-rated rookie linebacker last year. Didn't play a ton of snaps.
Yeah, I was going to say,
barely
play a lot.
got the minimum.
Right,
so who knows?
Any other rookies that were like at least significant snaps that jumped out as far as the position?
Logan Wilson, a third-rounder for the Bengals from Wyoming.
Yeah.
Jordan Brooks was a first-rounder who you did not have from Texas Tech with Seattle.
Yeah.
Played
I
a
like
little
him.
bit there.
He was right on my outside of my list there last year.
But it wasn't like any rookie linebacker jumped out and like dominated.
No,
last year.
I don't think there is that one guy. There's no doubt about it. This year, watch out for them. I think they jump out. Even our guy in New Orleans, Bond from Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I would think they find a spot for Zach Bond this year.
You think they take a leap? All these guys in year 2.
I do, and I think this linebacker in college football. It's just a different animal than the NFL.
Yeah.
It just is. The game in college is all spread. In the NFL, it's not all spread. You know, like we just talked about, you could play the Ravens or play the New England Patriots of last year and go, wait, it's been 12 runs in a row, and every run is a different type of run. You know, where in college football, they could go, it's been 22 plays in a row, and I haven't seen a run. Yeah. It's been a throw every play. So there's definitely an adjustment there.
So seeing how they performed last year, those rookie linebackers, does this year's class have a chance to be better in their rookie year?
I do. I think that it's a little less raw, this rookie class, especially I would say the top 3 guys in this class. I think they are more ready, and you see more of the things we're talking about on film from these guys to go, wait, they've seen enough of this, they understand, and they're kind of built to play that way anyways, and I don't think the top 3 especially really are going to have any like adjustment period as far as like some of the stuff we just talked about with last year's class.
All right, so we'll get to the top 3 in a second, but we start at number 5. Number 5 in the Chris Sims 2021 draft linebacker rankings from Missouri, Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton, that's right. I mean, and he will be bolting through the line of scrimmage if he sees a hole to go tackle a running back. You know, here's another guy. He's not going to have a problem. I've seen enough of him to go, wait, he's seen run concepts between the Alabamas of the world and things like that in the SEC that he's going to be completely comfortable. We're talking smaller, explosive, you know, tightly packed in type of linebacker when we're talking about
5'11",
237.
Yeah. Compare him to Devin Bush.
Sure.
Very physically similar.
Very physically similar. There's no doubt about that. You know, I mean, there's almost the way they run is a similar style. The way their body looks in the uniform is a similar style. Except I would just go, Devin Bush's is greater. Devin Bush's is the explosion was really special with Devin Bush. When you talk about, and you know, again, hey, vertical jump, the 40-yard dash, they kind of show that. You know, Devin Bush's legs were special legs and ass that Nick Bolton doesn't have. Devin Bush's ability to accelerate was of a top running back in the NFL. You know, let alone when you have that kind of vertical jump power, you know what that tells me, like with the Devin Bush and everything like that. When you have that kind of stuff, that they are able to, I'm in a total standstill in the hole, and here comes Derrick Henry, and he's running and I'm not. I'm just planted. And now that ability to like squat and like drive those hips forward, that's where the vertical leap, if you want to talk about how you can kind of take things and go, wait, how does that work to the field?
Right.
That would be the one thing. But Bolton,
how does he make up for
similarities? That, he's not going to be able to do it to the extent of what Devin Bush did. There's a reason Devin Bush was, you know, the number 10 pick in the draft and everything like that. That's why he's special. But I think, like, to your point there and everything, there's similarities as far as the read and react ability. That's where he'd probably have to make up for it a little bit. Have to be ultra awesome with his brain. But he is a guy in where, hey, he diagnoses things and he comes downhill and he's going to smack you. I love that about Nick Bolton. I mean, there is any way possible, ooh, can I hit you as you're falling down? I'm going to get in there and get my hit in. So
it might not be all that stuff with the most force or is the same amount of force as Bush, but he's given everything he has. He's not afraid to mix it up. And you know me, that's big with me, the linebacker position. You can't have any like business decisions or thought about business when it comes to that. You know, and the acceleration is real. That's the one thing. And again, at linebacker, hey, I want speed, top-end speed and all that too, but the acceleration to me is more important than anything. You know, again, your game is played mostly between the tackles and maybe a little outside that edge. So your ability to get out of the box, right, and that first 10 yards, the whole game is there for you for the most part if you're a linebacker. He's great at that. He's got really good, like, short area quickness to adjust and go get a tackler in the open field. You know, we talked about his physicality. He is a little bit stiff and of a straight liner, right? So there is, like, he's not your perfect coverage guy, even though he runs well and all of that. I don't think he's necessarily the greatest in changing direction or flipping hips and doing stuff like that in that department. That's why I say straight liner. He's a little bit of like, hey, I want to go this way. I'm going to turn my body and zoom, I'm going to take off. That's kind of what I mean by the straight liner aspect of it. You know, but everything about the player is fun to watch, you know, but he is undersized and that pops up. That's the biggest thing. There is, you know, the reason he's not a top linebacker or a first round linebacker or anything like that is just because there's going to be too
too many snaps on tape of him being swallowed up by bigger offensive linemen and then not being able to get off the blocks, right? So that's going to be his issue he'll have to deal with. And even for being a smaller guy, again, not that you always have to be able to take on the blocks and do that, then you're going to have to be able to win with your elite speed and quickness at times. Yeah. And it's not quite elite enough for him to do that. You know, so Nick Bolton, really good football player. I would be shocked, he could be starting for somebody next year. There's no doubt about that. But the size and just a little lack of elite athleticism is what makes him my number 5 guy. He
seems like a football player, a guy that likes playing football. He grew up in the Dallas area.
Yep.
He was a 3-star linebacker, but he played all 13 games as a freshman in Dallas in high school. So it's like he's been playing at a high level for a lot of years in a row now, and hopes that continues.
It shows on film. You can see.
NFL.
Yeah.
So that is number 5 for you, Nick Bolton out of Missouri. Number 4, another LSU linebacker, like a factory there. Number 4, Jabril Cox.
Jabril Cox is, how do I want to explain him to start? First off, a freakish-looking stand-up middle linebacker. That's what it is. And I'm just trying to paint pictures of what the guys look like in their uniform. He's the guy that I think is closest to looking like Isaiah Simmons, all right, as far as, the look in the uniform and what they are as a specimen that way.
6'3", 232 pounds.
Yep.
Transferred to LSU last season after graduating from North Dakota State.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. His body looked the part,
right?
But you always had the concern, like, will he play the part at a big school?
And he did. And there was a little bit adjustment period, like early on. And I think, listen, that's going to be a positive too. Teams are going to look at it and go, wait. He went from real good 1AA to big time Division I. He played at a really high level, and he got better as the year went on. I think with adjusting with how he's going to play, but like, freakishly smooth, awesome-looking athlete. That's where the conversation starts. He's one of those guys where you just turn on the film and you go, wait, who's number 19 standing up in the middle there? He looks really awesome in his uniform. Now, LSU has a few of those guys, no doubt about that, but just like extremely smooth with everything. We talk about the coverage and the inability a little bit with Nick Bolton and things like that. Man, this guy is silky smooth and the ability to flip the hips, coverage, find the ball, do those type of things. It's really good. So space, the game of in space, the passing game, the screen game, all of that. I mean, Jabril Cox is off the charts good as far as that's concerned. So you're not going to ever have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah, scouts note that he's able to do it in multiple different coverages. Like, he's like a coverage guy.
He really is. A lot of the times for their defense, he almost played a out there will linebacker / nickelback. I'm over the slot receiver, the extended tight end. I have this run game fill, but if they drop back to pass, I'm going to have to cover this guy up the seam or cover him in the flat and do that type of stuff.
Yeah, he had 3 picks, returned 1 for a touchdown.
Really natural playing the football. Okay. I mean, that's to me where the value is. And then you go, okay, so we got a great athlete here who's got length. He's really smooth. His change of direction ability is really good. He is really fast. I mean, really, I would say, like, as far as just pure speed, I mean, it's up there with the fastest guys at the position group as far as just the ability to accelerate, run, do that. So you got that aspect. And now when you have all that, you go, okay, so now what about the physical aspect of the game? Where is he in that department? And like I said, early in the year, there was maybe, I don't want to say hesitation, but lack of just like, hey, you got to come downhill here. And you got to run down and set the edge and not let that guy outside you to run the, a 25-yard toss sweep or do that. But he was really good from the get-go, I'll say this, of taking on blockers and being able to stay on his feet and kind of still watch the ball on the edge of the defense and do those type of stuff to where you could see, like, listen, power's not a problem. He can handle the bigger people in football that way and does not get swallowed up by bigger linemen. Again, that's big in the NFL. He's not on the ground much when he takes on pulling guards, anything like that, let alone because of the athleticism and the length of the arms and things like that, he can really disengage, and get off these blockers and go attack the football. And I think that's what I really liked about him a lot.
Back in high school, he played receiver, safety, corner, linebacker, and quarterback. Scored 31 touchdowns his senior year. He was a 4-year starter on the basketball team, and so he was super athletic, but had no big-time offers coming out of high school.
That's amazing.
That's why I went to North Dakota State, and he's got to fight that from, right? It's like you've got to fight where you start. If you're a 5-star recruit, you don't need to convince people as much. LSU has had a lot of really good linebackers. You've mentioned a couple already. I think, Nicole, we have a graphic of some of them here. Does he remind you of any of these LSU guys recently?
He's a little different than the typical LSU guy, because all these guys are just little sticks of dynamite. Like, it's all a bunch of 5'11", 6 foot, densely muscled, in the high 220s to low 230s, and can just, I'm explosive and can fly.
Devin White, Quan Alexander, Kevin Minter, Deion Jones, if you're listening. Patrick
those
Queen
are just they're compact and just all about, power and explosiveness. This guy is a little bit more about length and smoothness, and because of his size, has some power aspects to his game. But it's not going to be like, oh my gosh, there he is through the hole, and he ran over the fullback and then crushed the tailback. Like, that's stuff you.
So is that why he's not higher? Is that why he's not higher?
I wowould say it's a little. That's probably the biggest reason. When they get into it, you go like my last things I wrote here. I talked about not getting swallowed up by the blockers and all that.
Right.
The speed is real good. The acceleration is real good. Ability to cover tight ends, big wide receivers, and running backs is really damn good. I wish he was a hair more physical, but it's not a concern. And then. I just again wrote, takes on blockers, makes a lot of tackles, not on the ground very much, and I was comparing him to somebody else that I didn't want to give it up yet, and I wrote he's very good at setting up the edge. And then one of the big notes I wrote at the end too, as the season went on, he learned how to come downhill and play more. Again, the running back position, this is where I talk about the hesitation thing, and if anybody's watching or anything, okay, you're sitting there at 5 yards off the ball, right? Right. In high school, Pee Wee League football, whatever, hey, I'm the middle linebacker. Hey, I'm 5 yards off the ball. Here I am. Oh, there's a hole in front of me. Here it is. All right, hey, I'll just hop up a little bit, and when that guy comes to the hole, I'll make the tackle. That's not how life works in big-time college football or the NFL.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and wait for them to get to you. Like, you have to go, wait, there's the hole? I need to come down and stop that fullback's momentum for opening this huge hole up, or I got to get up in that hole to not let the running back hit full speed before he gets to me, and now I can't adjust or do anything to make a move or slow him down before he just flies through the second level, and then before you know he's through the third level and he's gone. So he showed the ability to get better at that stuff as the year went on too.
All right, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Hearing you talk about him.
Yeah, there's big-time potential with this kid.
It's going to be hard to convince me that he might not be better than 3, 2, or 1. The way you talk about Cox. A lot to like about Cox.
It's more of a little bit of a potential.
Yeah.
It's a good player. I don't think the floor is low, like real low.
Yeah.
But I do think that, this could be one of those guys where the ceiling is very high.
Okay. All right. But not high enough right now
to
get you into the top 3 linebackers of 2021. Number 3, out of Tulsa, Zaven Collins.
Oh, baby. Zaven Collins. I mean, listen to me, this is where we get into special. All
even
3
bigger,
of these guys.
Even bigger than Jabril Cox.
I know. I mean, significantly bigger.
6'5", 259.
Oh, big old smooth boy here. The big old boy. I mean, that's really what he is. And again, to paint a picture about what the guy might look like, a little, in his uniform, the closest thing I can get to as far as stand-up middle linebacker or anything like that would be like a Dante Hightower when he came out, maybe a Jamie Collins for the Patriots, and that's what this guy is. This guy's a 3-4 middle linebacker. 3-4 teams are the ones that are going to like him. To be 260 and be as athletic as he is, the ability to change direction and flip the hips and coverage and do all that stuff. Like, Ahmed, it's special. You don't see a lot of guys that are 260 that can come along and do this.
Yeah.
So you have all that aspect to go, wait, he's this big. All right, he moves like that. Now what's he do at the line of scrimmage? And he's awesome at the line of scrimmage. You just, again, for that size, he can stone cold stop big-time offensive linemen in the hole and go, nope, that's it. It stops here. And now the running back's got to go through this little narrow gap here because I've stopped it. You're not going to just blow this wide open. So he's great at that. I mean, he's special at taking on blocks and doing that. And the 3-4 teams are going to love that. You know, again, for the fans out there listening, 3-4 teams, you know, you're going to have some plays and some defense alignments where, you know, unlike the 4-3 teams, the guards are uncovered. They're going to get up to you. You're going to have to take on a free guard who's got a free run at you.
Yeah.
And you're going to not get blown back. Or they, you know, like you see, like the Patriots do sometimes, they'll ask you as a 3-4 middle linebacker sometimes to stand right in there in the A gap and be like, no, we need you to like stop the A gap if they block down or double team you. And that's the things he can do, you know, added onto that too. But like great eyes to disengage, really like doesn't just take on blockers to go like, oh, I'm going to hit you hard and I have no idea where the ball is. Always knows where the ball is. If he does catch them with his hands, he's always paying attention to the balls. That's where he's really, really special. But like really great in all his movements. Natural athlete in all areas. You know, loose hips like we talked about. He's an awesome player, an awesome athlete. He has value as a true edge rusher was the other thing I added to this. You know, there is something to his ability there. You know, and then, you know, even I thought really between the tackles, this was the best between the tackles linebacker in the draft. And we got two good ones coming up.
So he's good between the tackles. He could be a very good edge rusher.
Yes.
That's a complete package.
He's the complete package. That's what he is. Now, I don't know if he'll be everybody's cup of tea. That's the thing. Because the size and maybe the overall just true lack of speed, I don't know if some of the 4-3 Seattle teams can get into that, right? It's just not quite, you know, explosive enough or quick in short areas. I would argue with them and go, wait, now he's plenty of quick. Like, he's just as quick as KJ Wright was, if not quicker than when he was coming out of Mississippi State. So I think he can do all of that stuff. He can play in any defense. But I think ultimately it is going to be the 4-3 type teams that love him. The Patriots, the Titans, the Miami Dolphins. You know, I think when you start to get to those teams, when you get to the Dolphins at 18, and that might be a little too high, but you get to the Tennessee Titans at 22. You know, I think that starts to be Zaven Collins, you know, area of where you could see him go off the board. But like I would be shocked. I think like the Dolphins have picked 36 in the second round or something like that, or 37. Like I would be shocked if he falls past that. Exactly right.
So we have a comp from regular contributor to the show, CJ Easterday. He's on the show more than I am.
I mean, really, him and Eberflus are they kill it.
Do you think Zaven Collins is more of a pass rusher who can drop back when needed, or a coverage linebacker who can occasionally rush the passer? He reminds me of an Anthony Barr type.
That's a nice combination there. That is. I mean, Anthony Barr was more the vice versa. He was more the guy he played defense end in college, Anthony Barr. He didn't play stand-up linebacker. It was a total projection to go, I think this guy needs to be a stand-up linebacker. But there you go. So that just says it to me right there, too. Man, that's really comparable.
Anthony Barr was the 9th overall pick in 2019.
And, like, again, Anthony Barr is playing in a defense that we were just talking about. Mike Zimmer, it's a 4-3 defense. It's a little more predicated on your athleticism and speed and all that.
Yeah.
And Zaven Collins, that's where I'll argue. He can do that stuff. He can. And he's got great feel, you know, for the game overall. You know, but that's what's going to be interesting is just where it goes in that department as far as what team, who likes him, has that. You know, but one of the last things I wrote was he is plenty good enough athlete for a 4-3 linebacker. Size, length, acceleration are all really damn good. I wrote he's bigger and faster than KJ Wright. So that was one of the last things. I wrote can't cover like Parsons or Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but still damn good to match up with backs and tight ends. And I wrote he's a first-round talent. 3-4 teams will love him. No way he gets past the Dolphins at 36. And then I wrote maybe Miami at 18. And I wrote Dante Hightower, underline. Right.
Well, if he can be Anthony Barr, who was drafted in 2014, That would be a good career for Zaven Collins, who is another one, just like Jabril Cox, who in high school was a 3-star recruit, had 0 Power 5 offers. For a guy that big,
it's amazing.
Which is crazy. So then he goes to Tulsa. He wins the Bronco Nagurski Award. He wins the Chuck Bednarik Award for the nation's best defender.
Right.
First team Associated Press All-American. So he's got all these awards, but you still have the question of, okay, he did it at Tulsa. And that's always going to be a question for guys that play in a school like Tulsa.
No, you're right. It is. Was always the biggest, baddest dude on the field for the most part. You know, yeah, he didn't have to go into Georgia or Alabama or Florida and go, whoa, you know. But you know, would I love to have seen him against that type of competition? There's no doubt about it. But I think from what I've seen on film and just being around enough, it's not a great concern for me. Yeah. Not that much. No, but that's probably what's different with between him and Anthony Barr, though, to a degree, and why, you know, he won't be a top 10 pick like Anthony Barr. First off, I think Anthony Barr showed a little bit more true explosion on tape, maybe compared to the comparable numbers we just saw with Zaven Collins and all that. But then maybe the other aspect of what you just kind of brought up. Yeah, he was at UCLA. You got to see him against some really good Oregon teams, and you know USC at the time was pretty damn good. So that made evaluators feel better. It's definitely, yes, in some of these smaller conferences, the offensive linemen are not as big, not as powerful, and you know just not the overall players that some of these linebackers in the SEC have to deal with.
So big schools for your top 2 in your linebacker rankings.
Yeah.
At number 2, out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Oh, baby. I mean, this arguably my favorite watch in the whole draft, I think. It's
Any
up there.
position?
Up there. It's up there. I mean, if you just want to see speed, explosiveness, craziness, I don't give a shit about my body. I'm going to throw it around and try to make a tackle. I don't give a damn if I missed a tackle either because I tried to dive 3 gaps over to do it. You know, any of that. I mean, then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is your guy. I mean, he's your guy. You know, first off, this is like the first thing I'll say because, again, I'm trying to paint pictures of all these guys, at least to start it with. Like, I don't know. He could be Darius Leonard or Fred Warner. He could be Derwin James. You tell me who you want him to be. He could be Darius Leonard or Derwin James. They're basically like the same. One guy's a safety, one's a linebacker. They're basically the same height and size, except one's a safety and one's a linebacker.
So you're not even saying like he could be a good linebacker, a good safety. You're saying he could be an elite linebacker or he could be an elite coverage guy.
They could figure that's where I think the beauty of this player is here, where he is going to be amazing to matching up with 2 tight end sets or all the different personnel sets we see in the NFL, to where you're just going to always go, wait, we got him in. Okay, he can cover. Oh, wait, he can get in the box and stop the run. There's nothing to his game that he won't be able to fit in with.
Could it be an Isaiah Simmons problem, though, where it's like you get him and you're like, oh, man, how are we going to use him?
No, because you got to see him definitively in a linebacker role here. It wasn't like he was playing free safety. It was a good question. It really was.
I mean, Pete gave me that question, but I delivered it in a great way, I thought.
Great way. You got to be careful with Pete. But like, I mean, no, this is a guy that you truly got to see in a spot, and you got to see him thrive in that spot, and then go above and beyond in a lot of areas too. Okay. No, I'm not going to lie. I mean,
and maybe people saw what happened with Simmons, and they're like, okay, let's not let that happen with him.
Yeah, I mean,
let's know how we want to use him. But if you, like you say, it doesn't almost matter sometimes.
No,
he'll do well in multiple roles.
Do well in a role that's somewhere near the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
You don't want him being a free safety, but if he's down there in the strong safety Cam Chancellor spot or the linebacker Darius Leonard spot, he is going to be fine and dandy, and he's going to be awesome. I mean, first off, the acceleration is off the charts. It's as good as anybody in the whole draft. You know, just when you talk about like getting up to full speed, it's 2 steps with this guy. I wrote, has 0 about his body, and when I mean that is because he doesn't care. He is going to throw his body around and try to make the tackle, take on the block, do whatever. Change of directions, off the charts good. Short area quicks and explosiveness, off the charts good. You know, ability to read and react and go make a play and just fly up into the hole and do that. It's off the charts good. I mean, you know, all his movements, his ability to cover people, all of that, run with slot wide receivers vertically. Ahmed, just a little short story here. Like, that's how I got to know the guy. This is where, it was great. This is where it's great to see guys in person.
Yeah.
Working for NBC and going to Notre Dame. 2 training camps ago, I'm there on a random day. It's double session practice for Notre Dame. They're trying to figure out who their next linebacker is going to be. And so this is, not last. So this might have been last year. I'm getting my years mixed up here.
Time flies.
So no, it was 2 training camps ago. I'm right. It's 2
you didn't
training
leave the
camps
house
ago.
last year.
Last year messed me up. Right. I'm like, wait, you're right. I didn't leave the house last year. So it's 2 training camps ago. But they're trying to find their next will linebacker. And I'm sitting there watching drills. They have the deep nickel backs and the weak side linebackers doing some coverage drills on slot wide receivers.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sitting there, and he's a pretty good nickelback, that guy, pretty good. And then this guy, number 6, comes up, and I go, damn, he's big. Was he a safety? He's the best coverage guy there is. And then, you ask a coach or the water guy, whoever I ask, like, who's number 6? They're like, oh, that's Owusu-Koramoah. I think he's going to be our starting linebacker. Starting linebacker? Shit. They don't got a nickelback that can cover as good as he can. And that's really where he popped onto the screen there. And that's where he's going to have great value for, really what it's going to be is a 4-3 team that's looking for that will linebacker that can just fly around the field and go get the ball. And that's really what he's going to be because of his speed, his instincts, his just pure ferociousness as a player. They're really, really special.
How about his weight?
Yeah, that's the problem. That is the problem, is going to be his weight. There's some size and physical limitations sometimes when you talk about, the ability to play in the box, take on pulling guards and doing things like that. But he makes up for it, and the fact of like, hey, the guard's coming at me. Yeah, he's going to win. All right, I'm going to fly at him and take his legs out. Or I'm going to just fly at the outside shoulder because that's my gap. And that running back's going to have to go to the other gap. So it's not like a concern to where it's like where I said with Nick Bolton and maybe some other smaller linebackers we talked about where you go, man, he just gets swallowed up and there's some issues there that really scare you at times. Now, he's really damn good at kind of like avoiding blockers too. Oh, you're coming at me, and he can kind of just like, he dips and gets around and makes the tackle because of his elite quickness and like change of direction ability, and that's how he kind of makes up for that too.
Super smart guy. I was reading somewhere where he got a 1310 on the SAT coming out of Bethel High School in Virginia. So not only athletic and can play multiple positions, but a super smart guy, which you have to be able to do that.
Yes.
And I guess that the concern for any scout or any NFL team is that you mentioned the small size, is that what could ruin this pick? Injury, right? And it's tough because everyone gets injured. And so trying to project injuries is almost a folly because you're like anyone can get injured.
Right.
Is it more likely in the case of this player, though? Not necessarily?
No, not necessarily. Not when you're built like he is, and again, I always find it that, the aggressive teams, the physical teams, the physical players, they usually get hurt less.
I mean,
that's really just a kind of a fact of life.
It's almost like when you're trying to protect something, you're going half speed. It's like,
I'm not sure I want to do that. That's when you do. It's that.
You go to tackle Derrick Henry half speed, you're probably going to get hurt.
You're going to get a knee full speed in your head. That's what you're going to get, instead of like, what, I should have been the aggressor and just flown in there and chopped his ankles out.
Yeah.
And then I'd have been okay. Instead, I was a little hesitant because I was scared of him, and he put his head right into my head, and now I'm concussed and out of the game.
Yeah.
So there's a little give and take with that conversation. I think that's a good question, though. But no, I don't worry about the injury with this kind of guy.
Okay.
Having seen him, the way he moves, the way he's built, all of that. Yeah, the size is a little less than what you would like, but he's just got a great instinct and, way above, his size, strength, ability, and everything like that. And one of the last things I wrote, he's really, really, really good at playing in the trash. His ability to avoid blockers and taking them on is way better than you would expect for somebody that you're about to watch at 215 pounds. I found it like almost on par with Micah Parsons in a lot of ways. Because I'm going to talk about Parsons here in a minute. I know he kind of would, at times because he's a great athlete. He tries to avoid blockers at times and do things like that. It gets him in trouble at sometimes too. But they ended up with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I just wrote, he could be Fred Warner, he could be Cam Chancellor, he could be Derwin James, he could be Darius Leonard. You just got to figure it out what you want him to be. But either way, he's at the line of scrimmage, 6 yards off the ball, just going to get the ball.
Perhaps your favorite player that you have scouted this season. So,
he's up
head
there.
Scratcher.
Yeah.
How did you put Micah Parsons from Penn State over him?
Well, Micah Parsons is special. And, again, even though, Koramoah might have been maybe a hair more of a fun watch, it doesn't necessarily mean I think it's going to translate better to the NFL. And don't get me wrong, Parsons was a really fun watch, too.
Sure.
I mean, Parsons is your traditional stud. I mean, that's why. I mean, I don't have any questions about, where I just talked about Koramoah, we talked about the size and things like that. Yeah, I got a little concerns about that. There's no doubt about that. There's a deficiency there to play the linebacker position.
6'3", 246 for Parsons.
See, good enough. There's nothing. There's no, absolute zero physical questions you have about Micah Parsons as a football player.
Hand size, 11 inches, which is in the 100th percentile. 40-yard dash was 4.39 in the 99th percentile. Broad jump, 126 inches, 93rd percentile.
So that's what I mean. You're talking about a guy here that is arguably, again, more athletic than Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, or at least on par with him, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, wait, he's also 30 pounds heavier. And that means he can do, more things in between the tackles, and you can expect more of them in those type of situations and things like that. But, I mean, great looking body. I mean, first off, right off the bat, length, stoutness, athletic. I mean, everything you want like a middle linebacker to look like. Special in the way he moves. Comes downhill fast. I mean, he's not looking for I want to make the tackle but give you a 4-yard gain. He's coming downhill thinking no, we're Penn State and we're giving you 0 yards to gain. That's what we want to do. I love that. I talked about his ability to avoid blockers. For a bigger guy, he's actually really special in how he can do that. Now, it's also a negative and can get him in trouble at times every now and then.
Sure.
But he'll learn. I'm not worried about that. I think the other thing that was really impressive to me, of course, is the speed and sideline to sideline, but also Ahmed to what you would call scrape, right? You remember middle linebacker, you got to scrape down the line of scrimmage, right? And kind of wait, I think the hole is coming at me. No, he's bouncing. Okay, wait, let me keep following him and staying square. He was really good at doing that, of course, with nobody on him. But what I was impressed too was hey, there's a guard on him, and the guard's hitting him on his left shoulder, and the running back's still running out to his right. He was, okay, fine, you're on me. It's no big deal. I'm going to keep shuffling, and I got this arm free. And as soon as I see that running back make a move or commit to something, I'm going to push off of you and go run him down and make the tackle. And I love that aspect about him. So he's an elite athlete with elite size to go along with it. And, really can do anything you want at the position. And that's why he's the #1 pick, and that's why I'd expect him to be top 10, top 15 for sure.
He did not play last year. He opted out of 2020, and Pro Football Focus noted that not many linebackers in college football history can rest on their true sophomore tape and still be a top 10 pick.
It's insane.
But it was that good for you, and he wasn't that old, like they mentioned there. So he had an elite sophomore year. There is a question about him off the field, though. He was named as an assailant in a hazing lawsuit at Penn State. So there was an incident off the field at Penn State with a former teammate. Hughes0020 says, hey, Chris, your biggest fan from Canada here. How much would you be concerned about the off-field issues for Micah Parsons?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's...
you don't know the guy.
I don't know the guy. So that's going to be on the teams to get to know the guy. The stories you hear a little bit, hazing, things like that. Again, that can be a broad conversation. Sometimes these are young kids. You can get carried away. Hey, it's been fun picking on this guy, and now we just keep picking on him and keep picking on him, and now he's pissed and wants to fight. And the knife comes out, and it's oh, wait, we were just hazing you and being stupid 19-year-olds, and now, it's gotten like serious and I'm being judged by it 2 years later. I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot of gray area.
Well, that's the problem, right?
Yes.
You don't know.
Exactly right.
It could be a situation where it's just like, hey, that's what happens sometimes and he regrets it. Or it could be a situation where it's like, no, that crosses the line. And it's his character that is seriously in question.
Well, it's a good question from our guy in Canada. And, again, I'll answer it the same way I answer with a lot of these. This is where you lean on your area scout. Your area scout is going to know, you hope, like, hey, this guy's been doing this area of the country for a long time.
Yeah.
He knows some people at Penn State that will tell him some things that, maybe other teammates might not say, or maybe the new coach on the staff might not want to say it and rat the player out, right? So that's where that comes in handy to find out, like, wait, is this a one-time stupid thing, or does this guy have meanness in him a little bit? And we've seen a few little scuffles in the weight room and a fight in the locker room and all those type of things. If it's that much and it starts to add up, then that's going to be concerning to some teams. But if it's just that one thing, then don't worry about it.
And there could be a problem, too, because he's been away for a year. You don't know if it's gotten better. You don't know if he's you don't kind of know. He hasn't been around the same people over the last year, so the area scout might not have anyone to talk to past year that's been really around him a lot.
It's a great point. It's a great point, Ahmed.
Which is why there's more uncertainty in this draft than there has ever been in a draft before. So how high can he go? Seeing that, let's just say that teams have talked to him, they're okay with the character of the player, and they're going off the film here. Here is Gary Gascoigne. Hi, Chris, loving the podcast from the UK. My surname is pronounced Gascoigne, so you don't butcher it. Nailed it. All right.
Look at this guy. Good. I mean, you really are. I mean, what up, Gascoigne? That's awesome. I mean, I'll never mess up gas and coin. It's perfect.
What do you think about Micah Parsons to the Giants? So, how high could he go here? Because I've even seen Micah Parsons to Detroit at 7.
I don't think that's a crazy thought. I think Detroit could definitely be. And again, we're talking about a 3-down linebacker. We just talked about all his ability to stop the run and do that stuff. I didn't even get much into his pass coverage, which is also elite. With that length and his ability to run and his hips and all of that. I mean, it's all awesome. He's a 3-down, could be a Pro Bowl type linebacker. The one I got my eye on here for Gascoigne, more than anything, hey, the Giants, I do think, yes, Micah Parsons, he's going to be anybody's cup of tea. But the Broncos are the team I look at number 9 to go, that could be where it really starts for him. They're a team, offensive line's pretty good. They got the pass rushers. They got some decent corners. Safety's okay. There's a team that's really like, if you really break the Broncos down, there's not a lot of positional need. And, it's an important part for, again, a 3-4 defense. Vic Fangio, he's been in San Francisco with Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis.
Yeah.
Then he went to Chicago, and they signed Danny Trevathan and drafted Roquan Smith. So I would think that they're in the conversation or tossing around the idea of Micah Parsons as being that pick at number 9. He is definitely worthy of that if the off-the-field stuff checks out and everything. Right. Again, just to hit one last thing on the player, I mean, size, speed, length, great instincts, read and recognition's really good. The only negative I wrote was like, maybe I wish he was a hair more kamikaze with throwing his body around.
Okay.
But that's being really picky. Because I don't want that to get confused with, like, he's physical. He is very physical. He really is. He doesn't turn down any hits or any tackles. I'm just saying, I guess I wish there was just a little bit of, like, more recklessness, just a hair. And then he can commit himself up into the line of scrimmage a little too fast at times. Like I talked about his ability to come downhill.
Yeah.
He can come downhill so fast and, there's a hole there. Let me get it and fill it. And, wait, now it's an outside run. And because you're down in the trash, you can't get sideline to sideline because you're kind of down there stuck in an area with people around you.
Yeah.
Those are minor negatives. But I really look at Denver as being that team that could do that there.
So a couple negatives maybe, but not enough to move him off your number 1 linebacker in this draft class. So let's recap your top 5 here. You had Micah Parsons, number 1, J-A-O-K, number 2 out of Notre Dame. Zaven Collins, 3, Jabril Cox, 4, Nick Bolton, 5, and you like this crew. And it seems like, I'm going to guess, you think that there are 3, maybe 4 first-round linebackers.
Yeah, I think it's 3.
3.
I think it's 3. I think 1 and 2 there, Parsons and Owusu-Koramoah, are no doubt like first-rounders. I think Zaven Collins is a first-round talent, no doubt about that either. You know, I guess I wonder how it shakes out. Like you heard my things with the 3-4 teams. Will the 4-3 teams like him? I don't know, but I think he's certainly worthy of. If he got picked at 18 by the Dolphins, I wouldn't go, what a stupid pick. That's horrible. I'd go, damn, that's a good pick. He's a really damn good football player, and they got a need for the position. It makes a lot of sense. I think Cox and Bolton are definitely second-round talents, somewhere in that range. And you could see maybe another, 2 or 3 running backs go off the board somewhere between, 45 and 70.
That is the final word. That is the prospect rundown presented by Applebee's. But here's the thing. It's not the final word because we have honorable mentions too.
Yeah.
Let's go quick hitter through these guys.
Yeah.
Kentucky's Jamin Davis.
Well,
What'd you think of him?
No, I mean, that's the guy that I figured I'm going to have the most questions about. It's the most popular name at the position right now, as far as like when you talk about, if go on the, in the news or any website, they talk about linebackers. I feel like he's getting more hype than anybody. Again, the specimen is real as far as like, the length of the athlete, the size of the athlete, and then, hey, the speed it's eye-popping. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's like he runs like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I was talking about, accelerates just like him, except he's 20 pounds heavier. So there's something really special about that aspect of that. But he's a little stiff as an athlete. That's the biggest thing. And then here's, to me, one of the first things I wrote down that started me a little bit on a negative path to where I was like, wait, this is not a top 5 linebacker, nor is he a first-round linebacker, no matter how fast or how high he jumps. Because I found myself, like, I think the middle of the second game going, oh, he almost made the tackle. And it was like, I've said that like 12 times already now. It's like I've watched the game and now I'm starting another game, and I've said that a bunch. Like in my brain as I'm sitting there, I'm going, oh, he just missed the tackle. Oh, that was close. He just missed it. Oh. There's just too much of that. There is too much of a physicality aspect about his game that I just, from that standpoint, couldn't throw him in the top 5, and nor do I think he's a first-round talent because of that. First off, I think he's a little raw at the position. He's not going to square up blockers, really. He's not going to do that. He sees running lanes and doesn't fill it. Ahmed, he is one of those guys I talk about where it's like, hey, there's a huge hole right in front of you. They're running at you. Go up there, make the tackle. He'll kind of just sit at 5 yards and wait for them to come and hope he can make the tackle then. And that's even, a little at times not a for sure thing because he's not the greatest tackler in the world. He's not a physical hitter that way. And I wrote, just looks uncomfortable in the trash at the line of scrimmage, mixing it up with the big boys, pulling guards and those type of things. He wasn't real natural at all that, and there just was too many missed tackles. So I think those were the biggest reasons of why I'm a little more down on him maybe than most. I think he probably still goes in the second round because he's, 6'4", 234, and ran, 4'3", and jumped 41 inches or something like that? Yeah, because of that, and that you do see some of that on film. He will, I think, be a hair over drafted just because of those measurables.
Then you'll get him and be like, oh, he almost made that tackle. That was good. He was almost there. So that is Jamin Davis out of Kentucky. How about Chazz Surratt out of North Carolina, who was a dual threat quarterback in high school and played quarterback his first 2 years at North Carolina.
Interesting prospect here.
Okay, that's never great. Like I wouldn't want to be called an interesting prospect.
I know. Well, it's interesting and it's in a good way.
Oh, okay.
All right, it's in a good way. But he's
an interesting host.
Well, yeah, right. He's like, there's a lot of things about his movement you like. He's really a natural, loose, fluid athlete. I mean, moves like a safety, like a really good coverage safety. Physically, there's some detractors. Not because of unwillingness. Again, it's not because I go, ooh, he hesitates or anything like that. I didn't see any of that. He's new at the position. He's not good at getting off blocks and maybe like being a natural at playing middle linebacker because of the quarterback thing you talked about and all of that.
Right.
So yeah, there's that a little bit. And he can be fooled a little bit again because he's seeing the ball from a different perspective. But where I look at him and again, I don't think this guy's like a second round pick or anything like that. I just think he's interesting because a little bit like we talked about with Owusu-Koramoah, yeah, he's a linebacker, but why couldn't you make him Cam Chancellor or a Derwin James type and that type of defense? To go, wait, let him play safety. We don't have to depend on him all the time to be in the mix and take on pulling guards and all that. But he can do it and get better at it, but he's going to be great at all the coverage stuff and all the space stuff. That's where I just thought he was a little bit interesting that way. I ended up writing down, and one of the reasons I'm glad you brought him up was just yeah, he's a work in progress, like I said.
Right.
He can be fooled easy. And one-on-one, he can't always just fight through all the trash and do all that thing. But I also wrote, this kid might be a legit third safety or like a Jeremy Chin type, right? That we saw thrive with the Carolina Panthers, a Kyle Dougler, who the Patriots took last year. Duggar, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where, I thought it was kind of a neat evaluation of a player. Ex-quarterback, he kind of looks not tough in his picture without his uniform on. I was like, can this guy really be good? What? There's no way. And you turn on the film and, the last thing I wrote is he's tough. He doesn't back down from contact in any way. He just doesn't have quite the power and the strength to hold up against the big boys in the middle. But everything else other than that is really damn good when you talk about him running and coverage, all that type of stuff. Just an interesting prospect, I thought.
Could be the highest drafted linebacker who played quarterback in college ever.
Ever. I mean, really, that used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like Jim Kelly, I know he got recruited to play linebacker to Penn State, right?
Okay.
That was a thing a little bit back in the day, but yeah, you don't hear that too often.
It was when
anymore.
you had to play both sides of the ball.
Back in that day, play them both ways.
Two more players.
Yeah.
Real quick mentions. Baron Browning, Ohio State.
Oh, Baron Browning to me.
What do you think of him?
If you had to make me call a guy where I went, here's a mid-round pick, and you got to pick one that could maybe be a superstar, Baron Browning would be that guy. He'd be like what I would go the Navarro Bowman in this draft, right? Navarro Bowman was, I believe, a third-round pick who, again, just for those who might not paid attention to NFL football 5-6 years ago, was no doubt one of the 3 or 4 best middle linebackers in football.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. I mean, the crazy thing was they had the best middle linebacker, maybe Patrick Willis, and they truly, you might have been the second best middle linebacker in football might be the guy right next to him. They were special, right? I mean, you were out there in San Francisco.
So good, yeah.
They were awesome.
Yep.
This guy could maybe be that. First off, he's built like that. He's just got shoulders and arms and an unbelievable body. And there is some legit elite twitchiness to the way he moves and shuffles inside the tackle box and does stuff like that. And they asked him to play on the edge a lot almost to where he was out over the slot receiver and everything like that. But, man, he could be, like I said, Navarro Bowman, Demario Davis type of player because he's got no physical limitations. I think he just got to learn to, take a game over a little bit more. Trust what you see. Maybe you get in the NFL and they simplify things in your role a little bit and you don't have to worry about as much because you got other players who are good too, where they just go, hey, just this gap. We don't need you to worry about the bubble screen and the C gap and the quarterback keeping the run play, right? All we have a great defense end who runs 4-2. Don't worry, he'll stop the quarterback read. Our corners will stop you just have to worry about this. Sometimes that's how guys can thrive. He could be a guy that I look at little coaching around the NFL atmosphere where you go, he might be something one day.
And staying in the Big Ten,
yeah,
out of Purdue, Derrick Barnes.
Yeah, Derrick Barnes I think would probably be the next guy up. If I had to make my top 5, or
after
Bolton, I think that was the guy I picked apart with. He was one of the last guys I watched. But really a lot like Bolton, except a little bit bigger with a little less speed. Interesting guy because he played a good amount of defensive end and has some pass rush ability. and he's more of a thumper type of guy, right? More of your traditional linebacker, like when we grew up.
Sure.
But still good enough speed to where you're not worried about it. It's not his strong point. You're not going to be like, oh, wow, he's so fast and he's all over the field. But I think the big thing is downhill physicality. The teams that value bigger type linebackers, I think he could be on their radar there, late second, early third round.
All right, and that closes the book.
Boom!
On Chris Sims talking linebackers.
Linebackers?
Here on this day. Let's get into the Ask Me Anything portion of the podcast here. It's a lot of quarterback stuff. I kind of want to start with Kellen Mond.
Okay.
And your thoughts on your talk with him. Because I listened to it, 40 minutes. It was really good. He was really open about a lot of things.
He was.
You can tell that
what can you tell?
This quarterback has a chip on his shoulder.
Definitely, right? That came out to me too.
Part of it was I was like, okay, because he's heard, he's inaccurate, he's heard these things, and part of me didn't like the fact that he's like, Trevor Lawrence is inaccurate too. Zach Wilson's inaccurate too. It's like, oh, you don't need to say that necessarily. But it was in a way that was just trying to be honest and call out the fact that, which I think is true for him, it's like, how come when I do these things, people say, well, that's why he's not very good, and when other quarterbacks do these things, they just gloss over it.
Right. I probably the thing that stood out to me more than anything too. He's a really nice, natural guy.
Yeah.
And you could tell he's got perspective and he's smart and the game means something to him. In my heart of hearts, so I go, don't even say some of that stuff.
Yes.
Don't even, just let everybody else figure that out on their own. You don't need to fight that war. That's why I'm here. I'm the big mouth with Chris Sims Unbuttoned. I'll tell everybody that shit. Right? But also, too, though, he's bringing up some real points.
It's not that it's not true.
It's not that it's not true.
Right.
Exactly right. Yeah, for whatever reason, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt or, the talk of some of the positives that he does compared to some of the other guys in this draft class. I don't get that. So, yeah, I think that does bother him because he wants to be great. I think there is that in him to where, it's not necessarily fair that way. There's a lot of things we could talk about not fair. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's been, like we've talked about, all the quarterbacks and, other ones have been inconsistent, maybe like a Kellen Mond was, right? We don't talk about that. We talk about the talent level and BYU, the not great talent level there. But then we don't talk about as much, like I don't hear people on TV, hey, that point doesn't get made on the vice versa about, hey, Alabama comes in Ohio State, we're always way more talented. The game looked better. That's where the themes of the draft drive me insane sometimes. Going back to Zach Wilson, you probably heard me say this already, and I'm going to say it again. But like Zach Wilson, still the number one thing you hear is competition, the competition he played against.
Right.
And again, I don't care about any of this. I'm just trying to bring up but then yet Trey Lance plays against lesser competition. Nobody doesn't get brought up. It's not a topic. And his team was clearly the better team on the field, like Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State, in a lesser level of football, but it's not a question for him. And that's where I just don't get it. And that's where I think players like Kellen Mond get frustrated at times because they're like, wait, I'm being questioned on this.
Yeah.
I've watched this guy on TV. He had like 3 games like the one I'm being questioned on, but nobody's talking about it with him. But for me, it's the main talking point.
Yeah.
And that's where you can get frustrated as a player coming out.
I did it in a tough conference where I didn't have the talent advantage. No one's talking about it.
No
one's
exactly
talking
right.
about it.
Exactly right. But
successful.
That's a dicey one. And you can get yourself in trouble by doing that, by what you brought up. Like pointing out the other guy's flaws.
Yeah, it wasn't a great look. I understood what he was doing.
Right.
And and like I say, and it gave him a chip on his shoulder. And that's a positive. But you're right. Let you do that talking. He doesn't need to do that
talking. Let me do that talking. Let your play do that talking. The smart coaches who really know are going to know that.
Yeah. Don't be bitter. You don't want to be bitter. You just want to be confident and pump yourself up.
Well, what you learn in the NFL is you worry about you, right?
Yeah.
You worry about you. That's all you can do. And it doesn't matter who you're competing on against your own team in your own, coaching room or anything like that. Mm-hmm. They don't matter. It's about, can you be the best version of yourself, and can that best version of yourself beat out that guy next to you?
DeAndre Loam.
Yeah.
First of all, shout out to Pete, the Phantom of the podcast.
The Phantom.
Whoa.
I like that. That
Phantom.
might be a new good nickname right there.
Pete wants to know, this is not his burner account, so this was not Pete. This is an actual homie. Do you think if Mond goes to Washington, should he sit a year under Fitzpatrick? So, I mean, you've said he's a first-round quarterback.
I
don't know that he will be.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it's trending that way. But if he is, I mean, do you think he should sit for a year? Would that be a good situation for him?
Yeah, I think it's, that's one of those that, it's a good situation for him to sit and learn and do all that.
Yeah.
You can always start off with that, and then you go through training camp and you start to go, wait, guy's good.
Right.
He can handle the offense, and, and then you adjust from there. We've seen plenty of teams do that, and I do think that's why I love him too. He is pro ready. He has been playing pro football the last few years at Texas A&M. With what he's asked to do, with the lesser talent like you're talking about, he's had to throw into as many tight windows and with people around him in the pocket as anybody I've watched in this draft. And he passes the test with flying colors over and over. So I would love that for the Washington football team.
Yeah.
You're right, though. Right now, it seems high. I really think he has a chance to be maybe a Jordan Love-ish type of thing. And again, I will say his film is way better than Jordan Love. And yet people had no issues with talking about Jordan Love as a first-round pick last year. And this guy can't get first-round love. I don't understand it. His arm is every bit as powerful. He's just as good an athlete. And then he's way more consistent and a better decision maker than Jordan Love. And I was a Jordan Love fan. So I'm just letting everybody know. That's where I don't get it. That's where the draft is crazy to me. I want to be like, what? But yet Johnny Manziel's got drafted in the top 30, no problem. Nobody batted an eye about it. I want to go, his film kills a Johnny Manziel. Kills it. But I think anywhere from 20 to 40 is where we see Kellen Mond.
He's got elite traits that show up on film, and if you watched him play, and that has been the knock on Mac Jones, that he can't run and that he does not have quote-unquote elite traits. DL Book says, I get you are saying that Kyle Shanahan would take Mac Jones, but if you had that third pick, is that who you would choose? You've always been a draft elite traits guy, and there isn't anything elite with Mac.
No, listen, it's a good point. I mean, hey, listen, the first thing I say is I wouldn't have traded up to number 3 anyways, regardless. I don't think any of these Mac Jones, Fields, Trey Lance, I don't think any of them are top 5 picks at quarterback. I never have thought that. Lawrence and Wilson are 1 and 2, whatever way you want to put it. I think Wilson's 1, Lawrence is 2. That to me is a class of its own. I said, I think from the get-go, I thought Mac Jones was a top 10 pick. I did say from the get-go, he's a better prospect than Tua was last year. Again, that's another part of our point here. Nobody was mad about Tua, but now you got all these people trying to start to say, listen, there's a lot here that's better than Tua last year, and nobody wants to hear it. And it's just nope, Tua's 5th pick of the draft. You, move on to the next conversation. And this guy's better. But everyone's like, he can't go in the top 10. Why? So if I had the position of taking the third quarterback, yes, I would take Mac Jones. I am an elite traits guy. There's no doubt about that. Yes. But
you would have waited, if you were Kyle and you would have been directing his every move, you would have said, wait for him, see if he's there at 12?
Yeah, or maybe move up a little bit, but I'm not going to move up to. I wouldn't have moved up to number 3.
I guess the issue comes if the cost of moving up, if all their negotiations with other teams, right? If the cost of moving up to say 8, and then the cost of moving up to 3 isn't the difference isn't that great.
No.
If to move up to 8, they were like, yeah, we want your 2 future first-round picks, and you're like, well, might as well move up all the way.
Well, yeah, I think there could be some logic to that thought, Ahmed. Also to the fact of hey, we moved up to number 8, and oh wait, it did nothing for us. 2 other teams have jumped us now, and now we're I hope we get a quarterback at 8, and that's why we moved up. So I think that's probably the predicament they were in a little bit, right?
Sure.
So that's why I kind of came up with the phrase I think Shanahan was taking fate into his own hands. He was kind of I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to sit back and wait. I'm going to be in the position of power. I think ultimately that's what he went to. Again, to answer that question, I know, yes, there is no big overall elite trait. What's different, and again, where I always try to keep myself accountable and scout and do anything like that, the way he plays is elite. I think that's what I got to come back to.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I know Justin Fields' arm power is elite and his running is elite, but his accuracy is way below elite. It's troubling at times. You know, the decision-making also is just average. So, yeah, while he might have 2 elite traits, he's got a few other traits that I look at that go, you know, what's the opposite of elite? I don't know. What can I say? But either he's got some bottom traits that I really don't like.
Yeah.
And I think that's what scares me. Trey Lance, a little bit of the same way. You know, so Mac Jones, again, he's elite because he's the best decision maker in the draft. He's the most accurate passer in the draft. I would say working the pocket, it's between him or Zach Wilson for the best that work within the pocket to move and slide and make those type of throws, right? So there's some things there at the quarterback position that are really elite and also, to me, are elite in the ability to translating into the NFL. And I think that's why I would go number 3. But listen, what was our man's name that asked this question?
DL Book.
DL Book. Listen, Fields and Lance are two of the harder evals I've ever done. I'm not going to lie, because I see the eliteness. I do. I just see some things, too, that scare the shit out of me, and that's where I'm a little undecided about with that.
Did you see anything from Fields' second pro day? There wasn't a whole lot that came out.
Not a whole lot, no. You know, again, Fields, it's never going to look bad in any of that stuff. It's not. But some of the mechanical stuff, yeah, it's still there. You know, I don't know. Pete, how many throws do you think we saw in that video we watched? I'm going to say 20 throws. You know, again, you know my issue, of course, is we talked about footwork and everything like that, but it's really more than anything sometimes, hey, when you're a quarterback, like we've talked about a little, you want to be able to turn that shoulder, create the opposites between the upper and lower body. Fields doesn't really get any opposites created. He kind of keeps his shoulder there, and then he tries to do it with just the elbow and doing it that way. And that, to me, is the biggest issue. And that's why, even in a workout like yesterday, if I just took one takeaway, he can't just let it fly. That's where I want to go. Like, if you watch the other guys, right, Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, they can let it fly. Like, I'm dropping back. I know I'm throwing that guy, and I'm going to let it rip. I'm not worried about where it's going to go. I got enough control to keep it in the general area.
Yeah.
Fields, to me, in the both workouts, has a little bit of like, okay, wait, I'm in the line, and all right, let me throw. Okay, good, complete. Yeah, all right, I completed it. All right, good. A little bit like, I just want to complete it. Right. Instead, where the other guys are just going, I want to throw my perfect 100-mile-per-hour perfect fastball, you know, and they just let it go. That, to me, is an element that he misses a little bit in these workouts.
I think we have, Nicole, do we have some video of it? So here it is. So this is, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're not, you got to go to YouTube. Yeah, it just seems a little more finesse. A
little more, right. He's guiding it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of arm speed there. It's a little bit of like, yeah, I'm not quite sure where it's going to go, so I'm going to be careful with, you know, all my moving parts and things like that.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
So thank you. Yeah, I pointed out to a few people. Oh, and there's Shanahan.
Oh, Shanahan's there. Pick confirmed. Pick confirmed.
It's over. Pick 3. He went to a camp with Justin Fields, and now he saw his pro day, and they're talking. It's over. Pick 3.
And Kyle was wearing his white hat, and whenever he does that, it means he's in a good mood, and so he's going to take him.
Yeah.
But another knock on Fields has been the decision-making, right, and then slow to release the ball.
Yeah.
Rabinu JJ says if Justin Fields' knock is that he goes through the reads too slowly, isn't decisive enough, isn't that coachable?
It is coachable. There is. You know, those are, and Justin Fields' defense, it's not the greatest offense in the world. You know, they because they are more talented, are simple at times. And I also sit there at times and go, I'm not sure exactly what he's reading or what this play is and how you're, I mean, so there is definitely some of that.
Were there some long developing routes, too,
yes,
where it's like it required him to hold the ball for a while?
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. Or just plays where you go, like, really, this is the only option he can throw to here. He's not covered. What is he supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, I take all that into account. You know, but that's one of those it's hard to project all the time, too. You know, there are enough plays of, like I said, where, you know, the inaccuracy thing, I'm not so sure how much you can coach that out of the guy. I'm not sure. You know, you're going to have to know the guy and have to work with him a little bit to see how quickly he can adapt and change. You And then that's the same with some of the decision making too. Again, yeah, you get to know the guy. Hey, he's smart, loves football, awesome, but you're still going to, in the back of your mind, go, wait, I saw some plays where, like get off the first read, go to the second guy, get to the third guy. Or, hey, he got off the first read and the second guy's not open. Don't sit there on the second guy and now try to throw some crazy throw just to get it in there. Like, there's stuff of that. So that's where he's tough to really, pin down and quite figure out.
So Zach Wilson checks a lot more boxes for you. He's your number one quarterback.
Yeah.
And this one comes from Andre Brown Jr. I think this is a good question.
Cool.
If guys like Wilson, Rodgers, and Mahomes weren't so good at detaching their upper body from their legs, would it simply be considered bad mechanics, footwork? How do you differentiate? So sometimes, you say you got to get your feet in the same spot and you got to be that's how you're accurate.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Wilson, Rodgers, Mahomes. Sometimes their upper body's going one way, lower body's going the other way.
Yeah. Well,
or is that not happening? We just think it's happening.
Yeah, it's not happening when things are clean and right. And this is a good question. This is because there's a few layers to this. Those guys have become such machines at doing it the right way, and then of course are extremely talented, that they don't need to be perfect to get perfect results anymore. They've drilled it into them. So even when their feet are in bad spots, their upper body still stays in so many good spots and does the right thing that they can make up for it, let alone they have tremendous amount of repetitions. And then, of course, they're extremely talented, right? So that gets away from it. But I think if we sat here and broke down those kind of guys, Josh Allen, Rodgers, Mahomes, right? And we took away plays where we go, wait, here's the play, here's the first read, he got the ball, he looked at the first read, he threw it. You're more times not going to go, oh, his mechanics were pretty special that way, right? But now it's the other ones where it's, hey, wait, he's looking at the first read, and he was about to throw it, oh, and the guy's kind of covered, and he just kept his foot there, and then just went, oh, wait, there's somebody over there, and let me just turn my body and throw it over there and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just talented enough. Those guys are talented enough to do that. But that's through great work and repetition that got them to that. It's like my little boy who, wants to catch the one-hand Odell Beckham Jr. catch. Yeah. I have to always tell him, no, but Odell caught with two hands 95 million times first before he started doing that.
Yeah.
Steph Curry, didn't just go let me shoot it and look away and practice like that. He became a machine, and then he could start shooting threes any which way he wanted to throw it. Same thing with Rodgers and Mahomes or Brett Favre. You go through time, you look at them, they were kind of by the book at first. But then it was okay, by the book, they're great at it, and they've worked at it so hard that they don't have to be by the book to get the by the book production. So does that answer that question there?
Totally. It's like a video game. You have to unlock levels, right? You can't unlock the legs going one way, arm going the other way until you get to the certain point.
No, but there are still, even with that, with Zach Wilson and those guys, their best throws are still a lot of the times when they're in perfect, mechanical positions with their body. Yeah. That's when they can maximize and do the most special stuff. The things that makes them special is the things that we love them for so much. Oh, things aren't perfect and they're not in the perfect spot and the coverage was, really good and nobody's perfectly open and they're pass protect. Oh, it doesn't matter. They still threw the perfect ball. That's what makes them who they are.
Okay, all these quarterbacks really haven't talked a ton about Trevor Lawrence. It's boring, right? He's going to go number one. It's just like the generational talent we don't talk about anymore. But Chris has got him as the number 2 quarterback. There was some news made. This is a quote that came out. I think it was via SportsIllustrated.com. Nicole's punching it up on YouTube right here. And this was Trevor Lawrence on his motivation. I want people to know that I'm passionate about what I do, and it's really important to me, but I don't have this huge chip on my shoulder that everyone's out to get me and I'm trying to prove everyone wrong. I just don't have that. I can't manufacture that. I don't want to. I think people mistake that for being a competitor. I think that's unhealthy to a certain extent, just always thinking that you've got to prove someone wrong, you've got to do more, you've got to do better, end quote. That is on SportsIllustrated.com. I think his father later said that it's not the end-all be-all to him to go out there and win a Super Bowl. It's not what motivates him,
Yeah.
And I think he said he could walk away from the game, and that's okay.
Yeah, like his old high school coach said, I could see
old
him.
high school coach.
Right,
I can see him walking away from the game, and it's not like the end-all, be-all to him. What do you think about that?
All right, so let me, the first quote, right? That first part about, I'm not a chip on my shoulder, all of that type of stuff. That's fine.
Why would he? Everyone's been gushing about it.
Well, that's right. And not everybody, I think we're all a little bit like, oh, Tom Brady's got the chip on his shoulder because of the sixth round pick.
Yeah.
And that's work, so you need to have a chip on your shoulder. No, you don't. You don't. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have that chip on his shoulder. Patrick Mahomes just wants to be the best player he can be. He wants to maximize, and I think that's what Trevor Lawrence is like. I'm a competitor. I want to be great. But I don't want to be the great and then go this person doubted me. Red marker, rifle, I'm going to shoot them one day. He's not like that. That's not what he does.
Yeah.
That's fine. There's plenty of quarterbacks that are like that. There's a lot of great ones. Really, Brady's the most chip on his shoulder type guy we've ever seen, really, from that standpoint. So I have no issues with that aspect of that quote. The Super Bowl thing, listen, teams aren't going to love to hear that. They're not going to love to hear that. I don't know what else to say. When you're 2 years removed from Andrew Luck in the NFL,
sure,
they don't want to hear that. That's still scaring teams, Andrew Luck's retirement.
That's one of the bigger things that teams try to get out of a guy, correct me if I'm wrong, is how much do you love this game?
Right.
It's going to be very difficult.
It is.
Right?
That's where it was a little bit with the Justin Herbert thing last year too.
That's
if you
true.
Remember.
I remember that.
He likes the bubble of Oregon. We're not sure how much he likes football. He's a real smart guy.
He played an extra year at Oregon when he could have come out and been a top 10
He's got
pick.
brains, so at some point in his life he might go, I can do other things in my life. So that scared the shit out of people, especially a year after Andrew Luck. So I think there is the repercussions of that still kind of reverberating through the NFL world when it comes to that. And then, of course, nobody wants to hear the Super Bowl thing. Everybody's in it to win a Super Bowl. I think he was trying to play the thing, they were trying to play this angle of I'm more than just this meathead football guy.
Yeah.
And, I love football, but it's not the end-all, be-all, and I'm not like he's saying, he's chippy or crossing people off a list and keeping names and doing all that stuff. But I will say, with all that, right, the high school coach's quote, scares teams, and it does look a little weird. I can't deny that, especially when we've gone through the last 2 weeks of people questioning Justin Fields and his love for football and doing all that. Listen, I think we'd be doing Justin Fields an injustice if we didn't bring this up. You can't have that kind of talk around him with no evidence to back that up. None. I mean, no evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy that got Big Ten football back on playing football, he's not the one that what? Yeah, you got to have some evidence there, or say something to me for me to ring true that way.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie. If he said that, there'd be a big issue about it right now. I don't think there'd be any doubt about that. It'd be a big issue.
You think that's along racial lines?
I don't know if it's racial lines. It goes back to again what I just look at it with for some reason it's swept under the rug with one guy, and another guy we make a big deal about it. I don't get it, and that's what bothers me about the draft a little bit.
I mean, I think
it's refreshing from Trevor Lawrence.
Sure, and I think that isn't necessarily, doesn't have to be because Trevor Lawrence is white. I think part of that is that he has for so long been this guy. Yeah, he's number one. He's the number one player. I think anyone at the top, if Michael Jordan, number one player, if he said, it's it doesn't drive me. It's not the end all be all. It's he's earned that because he's already proved that he's gotten to the top of the mountain here with that philosophy. If people really do believe, and a lot of people do, that Trevor Lawrence has gotten to the top of the mountain as a prospect for the NFL draft, they've been talking about him as the number one guy for a long time.
Right.
So I think if we had been talking about Justin Fields like that for a couple of years, I think he could probably get away with that too. It's one of those things where if you are the guy, you can be like, it's not the end all be all to me. But if you're not the guy and you say that, then you're like, you don't want to be the guy. You're not the guy.
Right.
You can't say that. But I think Trevor Lawrence sees himself as the first pick. People have been telling him that for a long time, and it feels like he can say that.
Yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that. You're right. he's been built up and feels he's in the spot to where
I can be like, yeah, it's not that big a deal to me.
Nobody questions anything with me.
Exactly.
Right. Nobody questions anything. I'm a good player. We went to 2, we were in the Final Four all 3 years. I won a national championship as a freshman, and all right, screw you.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily fair that way. I don't think that some of the other quarterbacks could have got away with that quote.
Yep, I think you're right. And he's got to look at your top 5 quarterback list, and then he wouldn't be saying stuff like that.
Get chippy. How dare Sims put me on the list? And he just got married too. So that was a big weekend for him.
All right, that is it. One final thing I want to say.
Right.
I hope that the Lions draft Dyami Brown at some point, because watching your interview with him, I love that guy.
I did too.
And I know one of the things that you had to love hearing from him is that he didn't even start playing receiver until he got to North Carolina.
I know.
So he is still raw.
Raw. I mean, and then didn't go to Bama and Ohio State and Clemson because he wanted to make UNC a football powerhouse. I kind of like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I will sit here and go, again, Dyami Brown is a first-round receiver. I don't know if he's going to go first round. I'm just telling you, he's a first-round receiver. For my money, he should be somewhere between 18 and 32. I think he's that special. And what I would say to that, really, and this is messed up, where I want to go, if he went to Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State, he probably would be. But it's North Carolina, and it's not quite the same. And I don't know, 1,000 yards and 20 yards per reception is not as the same 1,000 yards and 20 yards per reception as if it was at Clemson or Bama or Ohio State.
Yeah.
But, yeah, maybe top of the second.
Top of the second round.
He's probably not going to be happy if he's still there at the top of the second.
I'll be very happy.
But, yeah, I could see that anywhere from 20 to 40 for Dyami Brown.
So if you haven't checked out the Dyami Brown interview, you can go do that on the YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out the Kellen Mond, you can do that as well.
Yeah, they were good interviews. Good
interviews. And if you're listening to this and want to see when Chris was talking about things that were on YouTube, you can go check it out on YouTube as well.
Check it out on YouTube. That's right. If you want to see Ahmed in his red pants, check us out on YouTube. It's the time of the year where he breaks them out about every other show.
People sometimes do white in the spring. Sometimes I do red.
You do red.
Red comes back out.
I think I like that. I mean, honestly, I'm getting to the point where I want to go, if you're going to do the pod, you have to wear your red pants.
It's like my signature.
Yeah, now, it's kind of like you have to do that.
Energy drink, red pants, glasses. That's me.
Yeah, right.
From now on.
Yeah, okay. All right. Peace out. We're
Tight
good.
ends next time.
Tight ends Tuesday. You're back in the fold, right?
Yep.
All right.
Last
so that's
one.
It.
Last position.
Oh, I'm going to be so happy when this weekend's over. I really am. Not going to lie.
Yeah.
I get anxious.
It's fun. It's fun in the beginning, and then as the grind goes on,
it's anxiety always, because I'm always like, whoa, I got a lot of guys on my list. Oh my gosh, I got to keep checking them off. I'm sick of thinking like that. Hope everybody else is good out there. Questions were great. Let's keep talking ball together. Send them in. Pete, a.k.a. what's his nickname now?
Phantom of the pod.
Phantom Pete. We'll keep track of all those type of things. Ahmed, you the man. Great show. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you Tuesday. Tight ends rankings coming up. Clap it up.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.